Today I'd like to begin working on the upper register. And to do this, I'm going to explain to you the overtone series and also recommend that you have your tuner out and a chart of the overtone series. You can find a chart for the overtone series online or in the beginning of most method books. There's one in the front of the Arbenz book. So what is the overtone series? Well, this actually, I'll tell you a little bit of philosophy. This goes back to the philosopher Pythagoras, who really is the first person who documented the discovery of this overtone series. And it's the idea that, say, within a string, all of the tones that we hear in the lowest pitch of the lowest string, if you just pluck a string, if you put a string like a guitar string or a bass, or just string a string between two nails, a guitar string, and you pluck it, you'll get a pitch. And that pitch is called the fundamental pitch. It's the lowest pitch. And the equivalent to that is the lowest pitch you can play in any position on the trombone. So for our trombone, it's a low B flat. We call it a pedal tone. It's the lowest possible pitch I can play in first position. That string then, if you divide it in half and hold your finger on the string so that you have two halves that you can pluck, each half will sound an octave higher. And that's the first partial on the overtone series. So we have a lowest fundamental tone of B flat. And if I tighten my lips up just enough to go to the next partial, it's a B flat an octave higher. That's a good exercise. You notice if I go down to second position, it drops a half step, so that's going down to A flat, very hard to get. So that fundamental tone is like different strings. There's string each of a different length. The next partial, if you tighten your lips a little more on any of those positions, in B flat is an F. It's a fifth above the fundamental. So it sounds like this. If I go to the next partial, it's another B flat, an octave of the fundamental. So earlier we did an exercise that went, that was doing the first three overtones of the overtone series. Fundamental, first overtone, second overtone, third overtone. So now I want to show you that the next overtone is a third above the fundamental pitch, which is a D. The next is an F, which is a fifth above the fundamental. B flat, C, D, E flat, F, it's a fifth. And now the next is a tricky one. It's an A flat, but it's out of tune. And there are reasons for this that I can't get into here. But just trust me on this. It's out of tune. It's very flat, and you need to sharpen it to make it be in tune. And you can't sharpen because you're in first position and you can't come in to do so. So if you practice it in a lip slur, be aware that you're not going to use it in everyday playing. I skip it in first position and I go to the next overtone, which is a B flat. But then there it goes to C and then D. So here's the complete overtone series that I would play in first position. Fundamental, an octave, the out of tune A flat. Now, as I go up, I am not using more strength in my lips. I'm not tightening up or putting more pressure. I'm increasing my abdominal muscle strength to make more air pressure, and I'm directing the air downward and using it as a fulcrum. So it takes little effort to get the high notes if you're using the fulcrum, and you have to use the air like a fulcrum. You know, if you change the pivot place of a fulcrum to here, then it takes very little effort to make the note go higher. So you have to use your lip and the air pressure as a fulcrum. And the way you do that is to direct air downward and to think of the syllable E instead of toe and ta in the middle and low register. As you go up into the upper register, change the syllable to E, and this will force the air down. It's just something you have to keep practicing over years, but if you're straining, don't strain. Just put a little, as you're getting to your highest ability in the overtone pitches you're playing, don't strain. Don't just, you might have a little bit of struggle, but just keep doing it. The only thing that's going to bring it is time, repeated in time, and experimenting with how to make the fulcrum situation happen. But just remember this, if you're using all this muscular strength, that's not the way to go. So I'm going to start on this B flat, and I'm just going to go up, and I'm going to skip the out of tune partial, and I'm going to go to the one that is just above it, which gives us a triad with an octave above. It sounds like this. So I'm going oh, oh, e, oh, e, oh, e, oh, do, do, dee, 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 do, do. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to put the metronome on. I'm going to take this nice and slow. I'm going to go through each partial doing that, starting with B flat. Something is not right on that D. It's too sharp. So you have to adjust, because that's the physics of the instrument. So when you hit that, the third of the triad, this, you have to actually flatten it a little bit. The D always needs to be flattened a little bit so it'll be in tune. Listen to this. So spend time with the tuner and just watch where you have to adjust that. And you have to adjust it in the fifth position as well, the G flat. See, it's very sharp. So I adjusted a little bit on the D flat. Get out to seventh and sixth, I don't worry about it, the intonation so much, because I'm never going to play that upper register out in that position anyway. I'm always going to play it up in here. So I just do it for the lip exercise. So here is increasing that to 16th notes eventually. So you want to keep working on those until you get them to 16th notes. You also want to work on it with different tonguing. So tha 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 tha. Da da da. Ran out of air. And ta ta ta. Now, as I'm doing this exercise, I'm using big bore trombone and a 4G mouthpiece. That's very large, so it's more difficult to get those notes. I'd like to demonstrate with the smaller trombone. So this is a small bore trombone with a small mouthpiece, a Yamaha 48, which is probably similar to like a 6.5 AL type mouthpiece in Bach. And it's much easier to play the upper register with this. As I go up to that high F, more air pressure. So I'm not using a lot of facial pressure. I'm keeping it firm here, but I'm just directing the air down and I'm making the high register go up. So you can, I would follow through a chart, an overtone series chart with a tuner and just go through each one and notice that every trombone, the tuning will be different. I tend to play sharp with this instrument. D is a good one to just work towards. So that's the overtone series. And experiment with that, and remember, don't strain. If you're straining, back off and just go as high as you can with a little bit of effort, but not a lot of strain, and gradually, it takes years to build up that upper register.